Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Phoebe, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to take basic body measurements. So I'm using my mannequin Layla for this tutorial purpose. All you need for this tutorial is your tape measure. So first guys, I'm going to find the true waistline of the mannequin by tying a piece of bias or fabric around the smallest part of our waist. Okay? So what I'm going to do next is to measure the shoulder of the mannequin from the back, measuring from one shoulder bone to the other. Make sure that you're doing this correctly. Accurate measurement leads to perfect fitting, okay? So next, I'm going to measure from her shoulder to the underbust, that is right under her bust, and I have 12 inches, okay? So guys, the next thing that I'm about to do is to determine her front half length, that is shoulder to the waist of the mannequin. From the front, I have 16.5 inches for her. So next thing that I'm going to do is to determine the shoulder to the hip line of the mannequin. So as you can see, I have about 24 inches for her. Alternatively, instead of going through all the process from the shoulder to the hip, you can measure right from the waistline there to the hip line. Okay, save yourself the stress. Okay, so guys, the next thing that I'm about to do is to determine the waist to the knee of the mannequin, or you can measure from the shoulder to the knee line if you're making a gown. So in this case, I'm measuring from the waist to the knee. So like I said, you can also measure from the shoulder to the knee if you're making a gown, okay? Make sure to take all the measurements correctly. As you can see, my measurements are all in inches. So after getting the waist to the knee line of the mannequin, to determine maybe my skirt length or whatever it is I'm making, maybe a gown, all I just have to do is take the measurement from my waist to the length I want. So what I'm going to do now is to measure the back half length for the mannequin. Remember, I did that of the front. It was 16.5. For the back, it's 15.5. So guys, I'm going to measure the bust circumference of the mannequin. Make sure you're doing this around the fullest part of the bust, which is usually in front. And make sure you take this measurement firmly, but also note that it shouldn't be so tight. So I have about 32.5, if not 33 inches for her. So guys, I'm also going to take the waist circumference of the mannequin. That is the smallest part of her waist. I'm just going to measure that. Make sure it is not too tight, but it is okay. Yeah, it is firm. So I have about 25 inches for her. So I'm also going to measure the hip circumference of Layla. Make sure you're doing this around the fullest part of the hip line. Observe carefully while taking this measurement, okay, so that you don't have fitting issues. So I'm just going to do that for her. Make sure that you place your tape measure on the bum of the person you're measuring, or if it's for yourself. So I have 33.5 inches. So guys, next thing that I'm about to do is to measure the round on the bust for Layla. This is usually done when you're making a bustier dress or blouse, or a corset dress or blouse. So make sure you do this firmly. I thought my tape measure was, straight while doing this, but I'm just seeing that it's not. But make sure you do yours correctly. I have 27 inches for her. So guys, the next thing that I'm about to do is to measure the distance from her bust point, okay, to her underbust. I have 3 inches for Layla. After doing that, I'm also going to measure from the bust point to the waistline. I have 6.5 inches. I can also measure from the underbust to the waistline. I have 4 inches for her. So guys, I want to determine the bust span measurements for her, which is the distance from one nipple to the other, okay, and I have 6.5 inches for her. So now to determine the neckline depth or the cleavage, I'm just going to measure from the the collarbone down to wherever I want it to be. But just know that the lower you go, the more revealing your bust will be. So if you're very busty, if you go so low, your bust will be so revealing. So you have to be careful, okay? So next I'm going to do is to measure the sleeve, okay? So it can be a short sleeve, a 3/4 sleeve, or a long sleeve. So I'll just measure from the shoulder to the length that I want. For the short sleeve, 9 inches. So after measuring the point I want, I'm going to measure the circumference of that area, making sure that it is not too tight but it is firm. So for the 3/4 sleeve, I'm going to take my tape measure all the way down to the elbow, and then you mark out the circumference of that area too. Make sure it's not too tight. Now for the long sleeve, I'm also going to repeat the same all the way down to the wrist. I have 23 inches, so I'm just going to measure the circumference of that area, making sure it is not too tight. So please, let's note that the kind of measurement that you need to take for a dress differs from the kind of measurement that you might need to take for another dress. Okay, so this is just the basic measurement that you need to make your dress. So guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, okay? I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.